Throughout recent history, there has been no bigger lie spread throughout not just America, but the Western world in general than the lie of equality. There is this false idea, this falsehood, that somehow everybody can be equal and society can still function in a normal, rational way. And we are now paying the consequences for this promotion of this completely crazy and whack job idea. The truth is that quality is not something that's achievable because we are so incredibly different. And I know for many of you, if you're listening to this and you're not familiar with my normal content, this is probably a little bit of a surprise to you. This is probably an idea you haven't really heard yet. You probably haven't heard very many people that said, hey, equality is kind of cringe. But I mean, that's just the truth. And if you're familiar with the channel and you've been watching me for a bit, then you probably completely agree with me. But for those of you who disagree, just hear me out for a second. This won't take long and won't take much out of your day. And this is an idea that you won't hear before and will open up a new perspective, I can guarantee it. So we have been recently told that equality is something that we should strive for. It's a net positive for society. But actually consider what that means for a second. To be equal is to be completely and entirely the same. That's what the definition of equality is. Now, the equality that they're pushing is slightly different. It's more of the equality of saying everybody is capable of the same thing. Every single person, they're equal. But that idea is false for a few reasons. I'm going to start off with gender equality, right? This is one I can probably get a few more of you on, a few more of you backing me. So with this idea of gender equality, it's basically saying that the genders are equal and that a man can do whatever a woman can do, and a woman can do whatever a man can do. That's the feminist idea of equality. But actually consider what that means for a second. One, think about the physical aspects. Obviously, a woman cannot do nearly as much as a man can do physically, right? A woman will never be able to, lift as much as a man can, will never be able to take as much pain like a man can. There are a lot of things that men go through that a woman would never be able to do physically. They'll never be able to run as quickly, lift as much weight, have as good of an endurance, take as many hits. There are a lot of things like that. And on the opposite end of that, women are significantly more, flexible. There's a few things women can do physically that men can't. And that's just because of the way our bodies are made. Women have a smaller frame. It makes it so they're a little bit more mobile in like a short area. Men have a bigger frame, but they also have organs that can, support that a little bit more, just like the way they're built, it allows, better cardio and all that type of stuff. All that jazz. So one, physically, obviously not equal. And honestly, the more important scale of this is emotionally. Our emotional needs are significantly different, and that's why men and women can't replace each other in society. It's just not possible. You put a bunch of women in a place that is normally a male only area, not only is it going to mess with the men, right? Because, men don't work as well when they're surrounded by women. They get distracted significantly easier. Women distract men. That's how it always has been throughout history, and that's how it still is today. Women will always distract men. They will always cause men to lose their focus. And on top of that, women bring a lot of drama that men don't have, right? They get a lot more emotionally tied to their arguments. They are a little bit more catty. They'll attack each other more. Uh, a quote that I think is pretty accurate that I've heard used a fair amount of times is, men, well, we're terrible to each other in person, right? We are complete dicks to each other. But behind each other's backs, we'll praise each other very highly. Like, I'm gonna fuck with you if you're my friend. Like, I'm gonna bully you a little bit. But behind your back, when I'm talking to other people, nobody is a bigger supporter than I am. I think women are a little bit of an opposite of that. I hear a lot of women. This goes for feminine men as well. Feminine men do this as well. I've noticed they're really nice to someone in person, and then they start talking crap about this guy behind their back when they're not around. But women, if you've been involved with any groups of girls, pick up pretty quickly that they'll be really nice to specific girls, and then they'll go behind their backs and just completely trash them when it makes them look better, right? For personal gain, they will just trash their friends. So, there's a little bit less of a tie. There's a little bit less of a bond, especially in like a workplace. Like women can only have like women get into these really large friend groups because they feel bad about offending each other. Like here's just my guess on why this is. While in reality, like they end up not liking most of these people in these groups, so that's why they go behind each other's backs. Then they only have like two or three real friends. And then men get into like small social groups and are really good friends with the guys they talk to, and then everybody else is just like an acquaintance. So they never feel the need to talk about them because they don't even really know them. And I think that's a big part of that. And women just they get more emotional about a lot of things, so more easy to offend. It's harder to work with girls because you have to be a lot more careful with the things you say, right? You just have to be significantly more careful because they get offended on other people's behalves a lot quicker. So you have to act differently when you're around them and it decreases productivity. So, yeah, men and women, they function differently, they think differently, they have different physical capabilities, all that. So, you can't treat them equally because treat women like you treat men, and they'll hate you. Treat men like you treat women, and they will be repulsed by you. They'll won't want to be around you. But yeah, you treat women like you treat men, and they will think that you are a monster and you're just like a complete dick. And the other way around, they'll think that you're gay. So, yeah, you just can't treat the sexes equally because they're different people, and you have to recognize that. You have to treat them in corresponding with their strengths and weaknesses. And then on another level, we can't be treating everybody else equal too. Like people from different cultural backgrounds should not be treated the same. You can't treat black guys like you treat, or excuse me, you can't treat a black guy from the hood like you treat a white guy from some preppy neighborhood. Very, very different people. And you treat the black guy from the hood like you treat the white guy from the preppy neighborhood, and you might just get shot. Pretty dangerous out there. So yeah, you can't be doing that. You can't be you got to recognize that everybody has different cultural backgrounds, and that results in different capabilities and different uses for society. So you can't treat them the same, and you can't expect them to behave the same because they're not the same person. Like there's so many differences. Like race is significantly deeper than skin deep, right? People don't like to admit this, but race is a significant cultural factor, right? And there's also other genetic factors with race, IQ levels. Asians obviously sky high. I and then at the lowest end you have the blacks, right? So, you know, you have that, and then, you know, white Americans, Hispanic Americans, we're both kind of in the middle there. And so yeah, they have different physical capabilities too. Black Americans beat everybody else out physically, significantly more athletic. Like, look at the NFL. There's a reason there hasn't been a solid white cornerback in the NFL since blacks weren't allowed in the sport. And Asians are at the lowest of the athleticism totem pole because we are genetically predestined to be different, predisposed to be different. So yeah, and then also we just act differently because we are culturally differently. We're raised in different climates, and that results in significant differences in behavior. And those differences in behavior need to be recognized, so we can't be treating each other equally. We have to set different standards and different boundaries in society. Otherwise, it's just not going to mesh, right? And really, what you as a society need to do is be culturally unified. That way, you don't have to worry about that as much, right? Because you have to have one specific set of like expectations for your society. You have a bunch of people that come from cultures that don't respect those expectations. You're going to have a group that commits significantly more crime and break those social expectations way more than everybody else. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, that's kind of what happens when you have a ununified culture, and you can fix that, right? That's something you can fix simply by uh, giving them the same expectation as you give everybody else, pretty much, and then have the same consequences for them, and then eventually they'll shape out. But I mean, doing that, here's the thing: when you start treating them actually equally, you get called a racist, you get called discriminatory because they just don't function the same. Different races function differently because of different cultural backgrounds and different or genetic makeups, and that's just the way it is. And if you don't recognize that, you're going to have a failed society. It's just the truth. But yeah, I'm going to wrap up the video on that note. So if you got anything out of it, like, subscribe, share the video. Only way we can get that message out there is with your help. So I greatly appreciate that. But yeah, join the Discord server, link in the description. Follow me on Rumble, Twitter, all the jazz. So all kinds of good stuff. Hopefully you got something out of this. Equality is cringe. Don't buy into the narrative. But yeah, I'm heading out on that note. So long. Peace out and God bless y'all.